What if I told you that almost everything you believe about love, marriage, and desire is not what it seems? That behind every promise, every routine, and even every vow, there is something hidden, something that 99% of married people never realize. Think about it. Why do so many relationships start with fire and passion, only to cool into silence, duty, or disappointment? Why does desire, that mysterious force that once united two souls, seem to vanish or redirect itself? Is it really about love fading, or is there a deeper truth at play, one that most people will never dare to face? Carl Jung believed that desire is not random, nor is it just about the other person. It is the unconscious calling us, showing us the parts of ourselves we have ignored. But when we miss this truth, we mistake illusion for love, and disappointment becomes inevitable. Stay with me, because what you'll hear today may completely change the way you see relationships forever. The hidden illusion of marriage. When people enter marriage, they often believe they are stepping into a safe harbor where love, desire, and happiness will last forever. From childhood, society paints a picture that once you find the right Onduni, everything falls into place. The wedding day becomes the symbol of arrival, the moment when two lives finally merge into one perfect story. Yet behind this dream lies an illusion that 99% of married people don't realize. What they are truly marrying is not only their partner, but also their own unconscious hopes, wounds, and hidden projections. At the beginning, everything feels magical. Every look seems filled with promise. Every conversation feels alive, and every touch carries electricity. This stage often feels like destiny, as if the universe carefully scripted the encounter. Jung explained this enchantment as projection. The unconscious places inner images onto the partner, making them appear larger, brighter, almost divine. The husband may unconsciously see in his wife the nurturing mother he longed for. The wife may see in her husband the strong, protective figure missing from her own inner world. These images light the fire of passion, but they are not the whole truth. As time passes, daily life enters. The bills, the routines, the ordinary flaws of human existence slowly uncover what was hidden behind the projection. The partner is not always attentive. The partner has moods, insecurities, and limits. Slowly, the magical image fades and disappointment arrives. Many couples confuse this moment with failure, but Jung reminds us it is not failure. It is the collapse of the illusion. The unconscious projections are withdrawing, asking us to see not just the fantasy, but the real person standing before us. This is the stage where many feel betrayed by reality. They may say, "You are not the person I married," but the truth is they never married only the person. They married their own unconscious dreams reflected in another. This is why so many long-term marriages fall into quiet frustration. People keep expecting the partner to embody the ideal they once projected, not realizing that the loss of illusion was always meant to happen. Yet inside this collapse lies a hidden invitation. Disappointment, though painful, is the call to awaken. Instead of chasing lost passion elsewhere or burying dissatisfaction in silence, partners can choose to face the truth. The other is human, limited, and imperfect, and so are we. In this confrontation, a deeper intimacy becomes possible. Most never reach this point. They hold on to the illusion as long as possible, refusing to see what is really happening. Some hide behind routines, convincing themselves that comfort is enough. Others search for the lost fire in secret places, believing another person will restore the magic. But Jung's perspective is clear. Until we face the illusion, we cannot experience authentic love. Real marriage is not about finding a perfect partner. It is about discovering the unconscious patterns we carry, the hidden images we project, and the illusions we cling to. Once these fall away, we can finally relate to the other as they are, not as we imagined them to be. True intimacy does not live in the fantasy of perfection. It lives in the courage to embrace the ordinary reality of another soul, and in doing so, to confront the truth within ourselves. This is why 99% of married people don't realize the real challenge of marriage. It is not only about loyalty, passion, or building a life together. It is about facing the inner world that comes alive when we commit to another human being. The illusion fades because it must. Only then can love begin its second stage. Not projection, but genuine connection. Why desire fades in silence? When people speak about marriage losing its fire, they often blame time, stress, or the natural fading of passion. The common belief is that desire cannot last forever, that it is simply consumed by routine. But Jung offers a deeper explanation. Desire does not die because of years or obligations. It fades when the mystery that once fueled it is lost. 99% of married people don't realize that what keeps passion alive is not stability, but curiosity. In the early days of a relationship, every word feels new, every gesture carries a spark. The unknown keeps both partners alert, open, and filled with anticipation. It is not only love that creates this energy, but also the projection of unconscious possibilities. When two people don't fully know each other, the imagination fills the gaps, painting the other with colors borrowed from the soul. That projection creates excitement. But as the years pass, partners begin to see each other more clearly. The mystery that once existed fades into routine. They learn each other's habits, fears, and limitations. The unconscious projections withdraw, and the person before them appears ordinary. This is when many confuse the loss of projection with the loss of love. They assume the fire is gone forever, but in reality it is the psyche inviting them to move deeper. Silence becomes the symbol of this stage. The conversations that once flowed with ease now turn into small talk. The glances that once carried fire now seem empty. Yet this silence is not meaningless. It is a mirror. It reveals where growth has stopped, where curiosity has been replaced by assumption, and where love has been reduced to habit. Jung taught that the human soul thrives on transformation. When couples stop transforming, when they stop exploring new depths within themselves and each other, desire falls asleep. It is not the years that kill passion, but the refusal to evolve together. Most people accept this silence as normal. They think this is just what happens after marriage. But in truth, silence is not the end. Silence is a signal. It is the unconscious whispering that there is more of you and more of your partner waiting to be seen. Behind the silence hides the possibility of a new chapter. If only both are willing to listen, desire can return, but not through repeating the same routines. It returns when partners dare to see each other with fresh eyes, when they allow space for mystery again. This might mean sharing fears never spoken, dreams never confessed, or vulnerabilities long hidden. It might mean breaking out of comfort zones and rediscovering each other beyond the roles of husband, wife, or parent. Without this courage, couples fall into quiet resignation. They stay together in form, but live apart in essence. They confuse loyalty with connection and duty with intimacy. They miss that passion is not a gift given once, but a force that must be continually awakened. 99% of married people never realize that fading desire is not inevitable. It is a choice, not an obvious one, but a silent one. By ignoring the signals of silence, they choose stagnation over growth. By fearing discomfort, they lose the fire that once defined their bond. Jung believed that true desire is not about chasing novelty outside the relationship, but about rediscovering the unexplored within. The mystery that sustains passion is always there, but it requires effort, openness, and the willingness to face what lies beneath the surface. When partners embrace this, silence transforms from a symbol of death to a doorway of rebirth. And silence is not the enemy of marriage, it is the threshold. Those who step through it with courage find that desire was never lost. It was waiting in the shadows, calling them back to life. Before we end, if you felt stuck in the cycle of love and disappointment, the Jung method shows why it happens and how to break free. The link is pinned in the first comment. The secret battle between comfort and passion. Every marriage carries a silent tension that few recognize. On one side stands comfort, the need for safety, stability, and predictability. On the other side stands passion, the fire of mystery, intensity, and longing. 99% of married people don't realize that these two forces are often in conflict, and it is this battle that shapes the destiny of desire. Comfort feels good because it protects. When two people build a home, share routines, and plan a future, they create a structure of safety. They know where they will sleep, who will be at their side, and how their days will unfold. This stability is necessary for raising children, facing difficulties, and surviving the demands of daily life. Yet hidden inside this comfort lies a danger. When everything becomes predictable, the unconscious grows restless. Passion, unlike comfort, thrives on the unknown. It needs risk, surprise, and discovery. Passion is born in uncertainty, in the space where imagination can still play. Jung explained that passion is tied to the unconscious because it reflects the parts of ourselves that are still in shadow, still unexplored. When we encounter someone new, the unconscious paints them with the colors of mystery, and desire ignites. But once that mystery dissolves into routine, passion withers. Here lies the dilemma. Couples cling to comfort because it feels safe, but in doing so, they often sacrifice passion. They mistake stability for love, not realizing that love is larger than both. Love requires stability, but it also requires growth, challenge, and transformation. Without these, the relationship becomes a contract of duties rather than a living connection of souls. Jung believed that the unconscious does not tolerate stagnation. If partners choose only comfort, the psyche will seek passion elsewhere. Sometimes in dreams, sometimes in fantasies, sometimes in forbidden desires. This is why many long-term relationships struggle with temptation. It is not always about the failure of love, but about the refusal to honor the balance between comfort and passion. Consider how many couples hide behind routine. They convince themselves that loyalty means ignoring the absence of fire, that sacrifice means accepting a life without intensity. Yet deep down, both partners often feel the same hunger. They miss the sparkle in each other's eyes, the electric touch, the shared adventure of discovery. But instead of admitting this need, they bury it, fearing that to seek passion is to betray. In truth, betrayal begins when we deny our own soul. To awaken passion within marriage, couples must dare to break the chains of routine. This does not mean abandoning comfort, but renewing it. It means introducing curiosity into daily life, asking questions that have never been asked, exploring dreams that have never been shared. It means seeing the partner not as a fixed identity, but as a soul in constant transformation. The unconscious thrives when there is movement. Every new challenge faced together, every vulnerability revealed, every layer of the self uncovered keeps passion alive. This is why passion is not limited to the beginning of love. It can exist in long marriages, but only if both partners accept that love is not static. It requires constant death and rebirth, comfort and risk, stability and fire. Most married people never realize this. They live in the illusion that comfort alone is enough, or they chase passion outside because they cannot imagine it being reborn within. Yet Jung's wisdom reminds us that passion is not destroyed by time. It is destroyed by the refusal to grow. The secret battle between comfort and passion is not meant to be won by one side. It is meant to be danced. When partners learn to hold, both marriage transforms from a cage into a journey. Comfort gives the ground to stand on, passion gives the wings to fly, and love, the deeper force, is the bridge that unites them, the shadow that lives inside every marriage. Most couples believe the challenges of marriage come only from outside pressures, financial struggles, children, work, or time. Yet Jung's psychology reveals another truth. The greatest struggles often come from within. 99% of married people don't realize that every relationship awakens what Jung called the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves that we deny, suppress, or fear. And this shadow does not stay silent. It shows itself through conflicts, disappointments, and unspoken tensions between partners. The shadow is not evil by nature. It is simply the collection of qualities we have rejected in ourselves. It might include anger, jealousy, selfishness, or even vulnerability. In daily life, we push these traits aside because they do not match the image we want to show. But once we enter an intimate relationship, the shadow finds a stage. Suddenly, the partner becomes the mirror reflecting everything we tried to ignore. This is why small arguments in marriage often feel so heavy. They are not just about chores, schedules, or money. They are about the deeper wounds and hidden fears each person carries. The unconscious uses the partner to reveal what the ego does not want to see. For example, when one partner complains that the other is controlling, it may be their own fear of weakness speaking. When one feels abandoned, it may awaken the wound of childhood neglect. The partner becomes the canvas where the shadow paints its stories. Most couples mistake these conflicts as signs of incompatibility. They think the marriage is broken, when in reality, the shadow is doing its work. It is showing what lies unhealed inside. Jung insisted that relationships are the great laboratories of the soul. Through intimacy, we are forced to face not only the beauty of love, but also the darkness within us. Without this confrontation, the marriage becomes a place of silent resentment. This is why so many relationships collapse, not because of lack of love, but because of the refusal to face the shadow. People prefer to escape, to search for someone new, believing the next partner will be free of darkness. Yet no matter where they go, the shadow follows, waiting for another chance to be seen. The shadow also affects desire. What is repressed does not disappear. It transforms into temptation, fantasies, or hidden frustrations. Couples who do not talk about their inner struggles often find themselves drifting apart. The fire that once connected them becomes blocked by unspoken fears. Desire does not fade naturally. It is swallowed by the shadow that neither partner dares to acknowledge. But there is another path. When partners recognize the shadow, they can use it as a doorway to growth. Instead of blaming each other, they can ask, what is this reaction revealing in me? What part of my unconscious is calling to be healed? In this way, conflict becomes a teacher rather than a curse. Marriage was never meant to be a place free of struggle. It was meant to be a place of transformation. The shadow ensures that transformation happens. If embraced, it can deepen intimacy. For there is no greater closeness than being fully seen, light and dark together. 99% of married people never realize this truth. They fear the shadow, when in reality it is the key. The problems they run from are the very doors to deeper connection. Jung reminds us, until we make the unconscious conscious, it will rule our lives, and we will call it fate. In marriage, Fate is not written by external forces. It is written by the shadows we refuse to face and by the courage to bring them into the light. The forgotten language of emotional needs. Marriage is often thought of as a partnership of responsibilities, sharing a home, raising children, paying bills, and supporting each other through life's challenges. While these are important, 99% of married people don't realize that beneath these duties lies something even more essential: the silent language of emotional needs. When this language is forgotten, marriages slowly lose their vitality, and partners begin to feel unseen, unheard, and unloved, even if everything looks fine from the outside. Every human being carries deep needs for recognition, affection, and validation. These needs are not childish, they are part of the soul's hunger to be acknowledged. Jung explained that much of our inner world is shaped by archetypes and childhood experiences. If a person grew up without enough affirmation, their unconscious will seek it intensely in adulthood. If they felt abandoned, they will crave security from their partner. Marriage becomes the stage where these old wounds and unspoken needs play out. The tragedy is that many couples never talk about these inner longings. They assume love alone should be enough to understand them. They expect their partner to just know what they need without words. When the partner fails, disappointment builds. One feels ignored, the other feels unappreciated. Silence grows where intimacy once lived. This forgotten language is not about grand gestures. It lives in small details, listening without distraction, offering a word of encouragement, showing physical affection, or expressing gratitude. These are the acts that tell the unconscious, I see you, I value you, you matter. Without them, even the most stable marriage begins to feel cold. Jung believed that unmet emotional needs often become projected onto others. This is why people sometimes find themselves drawn to someone outside the marriage. It is not always about physical attraction. Often, it is about recognition. If the spouse no longer notices, a stranger's attention suddenly feels intoxicating. But what is really happening is that the unconscious is crying out for what has been neglected at home. Couples who ignore this truth risk living side by side as strangers. They share responsibilities, but not souls. They talk about tasks, but not feelings. Slowly, the emotional thread that once bound them unravels. Many marriages do not end with a sudden betrayal or explosive conflict. They end with quiet emptiness, a slow forgetting of each other's inner world. Yet there is hope. The language of emotional needs can be remembered. It begins with vulnerability, the courage to say, I need this from you. Many fear that admitting needs makes them weak, but Jung would argue that denying needs only strengthens the shadow. True strength lies in speaking them openly, without shame. When partners dare to express their needs, something shifts. The marriage becomes alive again. Listening replaces assumption, presence replaces distance. Desire often returns because the unconscious feels nourished and safe. Love deepens not through perfection, but through recognition. 99% of married people don't realize that emotional needs are not optional extras. They are the heartbeat of intimacy. Ignoring them is like starving a fire of oxygen. Slowly, the flame disappears. Honoring them, however, rekindles the flame and makes it stronger than before. In the end, the forgotten language of emotional needs is not complicated. It is about presence, attention, and care. When partners choose to learn this language again, marriage transforms. It stops being a contract of duties and becomes what it was always meant to be, a space where two souls can be fully seen, nourished, and loved. The unspoken loneliness and togetherness. It may sound paradoxical, but one of the greatest truths about marriage is that two people can share the same home, the same bed, and the same life, and yet feel deeply alone. 99% of married people don't realize that physical closeness does not always equal emotional closeness. In fact, many long-term relationships slowly drift into a strange loneliness, a silence hidden beneath routines and responsibilities. At the beginning, togetherness feels like a cure for loneliness. Every conversation, every touch, and every plan seems to fill the heart with connection. But as time passes, the illusion of constant closeness fades. The partner is there, but not fully present. They may be lost in work, in worries, or in their own inner struggles. The body is near, but the soul feels far. This quiet loneliness often hurts more than being truly alone, because it happens in the very place where one expected to feel most connected. Jung's psychology helps explain why this happens. The unconscious is always seeking wholeness, always pushing us to face the parts of ourselves we avoid. In marriage, partners unconsciously expect the other to fill every inner void, to heal old wounds, to silence fears, to provide endless affirmation. But no human being can completely fulfill another's soul. When expectations go unmet, disappointment creates distance, and distance, over time, creates loneliness. This loneliness often goes unspoken. Few dare to admit, "I feel alone even when I'm with you." Shame silences the confession, because marriage is supposed to be the end of loneliness. So instead of speaking, couples fall into quiet routines. They eat together, sleep together, raise children together, but inside they feel invisible, unspoken. Loneliness is one of the most dangerous states for marriage because it does not erupt suddenly like a fight. It creeps in quietly day after day until the bond feels hollow. It is why some people describe feeling like roommates rather than lovers. They share a life, but not a heart. Yet loneliness inside marriage is not always a sign of failure. Jung would say it is a signal. It reveals the places where the self is longing for deeper recognition. Sometimes the loneliness comes from unspoken needs. Sometimes it comes from unacknowledged wounds. And sometimes it comes from the refusal to face one's own inner world, projecting all responsibility onto the partner. The danger is when couples ignore this signal. Many seek to escape the loneliness outside the marriage. A new friendship, an affair, or even distractions like work and technology become substitutes for intimacy. These may relieve the ache temporarily, but they never heal it. The unconscious keeps asking for what was denied, real connection, soul to soul. Healing this hidden loneliness begins with presence. Not just being in the same room, but being attentive, listening without judgment, and sharing honestly. It requires the courage to break the silence and say, "I miss you, even when you are near." These words may feel heavy, but they open the door to truth. And truth, no matter how uncomfortable, is the beginning of intimacy. Couples who dare to speak about their loneliness often discover they are not alone in it. Both partners may feel the same emptiness, waiting for the other to break the silence. When they finally do, the illusion falls, and they can begin to rebuild connection on honest ground. 99% of married people never realize that loneliness is not always the absence of love. It is often the absence of presence. To feel seen, valued, and connected requires more than sharing a life. It requires sharing a soul. In the end, the unspoken loneliness in togetherness is not a death sentence for marriage. It is an invitation to step beyond roles, beyond routines, and beyond the surface of daily life into the vulnerable truth that both hearts are longing for. When this invitation is accepted, the loneliness dissolves, and the bond that once felt empty can come alive again. The silent power of unmet expectations. Every marriage begins with dreams. Two people step into a shared life, believing they know what to expect: love, loyalty, support, and happiness. These expectations feel natural, almost invisible, because They are shaped by family stories, cultural ideals, and personal fantasies. But 99% of married people don't realize how powerful and dangerous unmet expectations can be. They quietly shape the rhythm of a relationship, creating either harmony or disappointment. At the start, expectations seem harmless. One imagines the partner will always listen, always understand, always protect. The other believes they will always be admired, always desired, always trusted. In those first days of passion, these expectations seem fulfilled. The unconscious projects the perfect image onto the partner, and they appear to meet every dream. But as daily life unfolds, reality collides with fantasy. The partner is not always attentive, not always romantic, not always strong. Expectations go unmet, and disappointment begins to grow. Jung explained that much of this disappointment comes from projection. We do not see the partner as they are, but as a reflection of what we lack within ourselves. A woman may expect her husband to provide constant reassurance because she never learned to affirm her own worth. A man may expect his wife to be endlessly nurturing because he never healed the wound of emotional neglect. When the partner fails to meet these unconscious demands, frustration builds. But the frustration is not truly about them. It is about what remains unresolved within. The silent power of unmet expectations is that they rarely get spoken aloud. Most couples assume the other should know what they need. When the partner fails, resentment replaces dialogue. Over time, this resentment hardens into distance. The marriage may still function outwardly, but inwardly it is fractured. This silence is dangerous because unmet expectations often transform into hidden judgments. You don't care. You never listen. You aren't who I thought you were. These judgments wound not only the partner, but also the bond itself. Instead of being a place of safety, marriage becomes a stage where both feel they are failing each other. Yet, unmet expectations are not a curse. They are a mirror. They show us where we are still seeking outside what must first be healed inside. Jung believed that true growth in marriage comes when we shift from demanding to discovering. Instead of saying, "You must complete me," we begin to ask, "What part of myself is calling for attention?" This shift changes everything. Conversations turn from blame to understanding. Instead of accusing the partner of not giving enough, we begin to share honestly about our inner world. We say, "I feel insecure and need reassurance," rather than, "You don't love me enough." We admit, "I am afraid of being alone," instead of projecting that fear as anger. When unmet expectations are spoken with vulnerability, they lose their destructive power. The partner is no longer trapped in silent judgment, but invited into deeper intimacy. And often, when needs are expressed clearly, they can be met with love. The marriage becomes less about perfection and more about presence. 99% of married people don't realize that disappointment is not always proof of failure. It is often proof that hidden expectations have surfaced. By facing them, couples can transform resentment into understanding. By naming them, they can turn distance into closeness. The silent power of unmet expectations can destroy a marriage when ignored, but it can also strengthen it when embraced. For in every expectation lies a deeper truth about who we are, what we fear and what we long for. Marriage is not about finding someone who meets every dream. It is about discovering ourselves in the mirror of another soul and learning to love both the dream and the reality. The hidden door to real love. After years of living together, many couples come to believe that marriage is simply about endurance, staying side by side no matter what. They imagine love as a duty, a promise that must survive even when the heart feels distant. Yet 99% of married people don't realize that disappointment, silence, and conflict are not signs of love's death. They are signs of a hidden door waiting to be opened, the door to real love. Real love is different from the illusions that begin most relationships. It's not born only from passion, projection, or the dream of completion. Real love begins when the illusions fall away and two people choose to see each other as they are. It requires courage to face imperfection, to accept the shadow, and to admit that no partner can satisfy every hidden need. This courage transforms disappointment into discovery. Jung taught that relationships are not only about happiness, but also about individuation, the process of becoming whole. Marriage is one of the most powerful mirrors of this process. Every conflict reveals what we have not faced in ourselves. Every silence points to what we have not expressed. Every unmet expectation shows where our wounds still wait for healing. When partners understand this, they realize marriage is not only about companionship, but about transformation. The hidden door to real love opens when couples stop blaming and start reflecting. Instead of saying, "You are the reason I suffer," they ask, "What is this teaching me about myself?" Instead of escaping into distractions or searching for another partner to reignite desire, they face the deeper work of seeing the unconscious patterns that shape their bond. This is not easy. It demands honesty, vulnerability, and patience. It asks each partner to step out of comfort and confront truths they may have avoided for years. But on the other side of this work lies a love stronger than passion alone. A love that is not bound by illusion but rooted in truth. Most never walk through this door. They settle for half lives, convincing themselves that marriage is simply about surviving together. They do not realize that they are standing before the greatest opportunity of their lives, the chance to awaken, to grow, and to discover love in its most authentic form. For Jung, real love was never about perfection. It was about wholeness. To love another truly is to embrace both their light and their shadow, their strengths and their flaws, their beauty and their wounds. And to receive that love is to allow ourselves to be seen fully, without masks. This is why marriage can be both the greatest source of disappointment and the greatest path to fulfillment. Disappointment strips away fantasy, but what remains is the raw material for true intimacy. Only when the illusions die can real connection begin. The hidden door to real love is always there, waiting. It opens when partners choose presence over distraction, truth over silence, growth over stagnation. It opens when they see marriage not as the end of desire, but as the journey of becoming whole together. And so, if 99% of married people don't realize this, perhaps you will. Perhaps you will see that every silence, every conflict, every unmet expectation is not the end, but the invitation. The invitation to walk through the hidden door, to step beyond illusion, and to discover a love that does not fade with time, but deepens with truth. Marriage was never meant to be only about vows, routines, or appearances. It was meant to be a mirror of the soul, a stage where the unconscious reveals itself and calls us to grow. 99% of married people never realize that disappointment is not a failure, but a teacher. Yet for the 1% who dare to see, marriage becomes more than survival. It becomes transformation. So ask yourself, will you remain among the 99 who live in silence and illusion? Or will you step through the hidden door, embracing both the beauty and the struggle, and discover what real love truly is? The choice, as Jung would remind us, is always yours.